Welcome to the Live Full, Work Fun podcast. This is the show to encourage you to live your life to the fullest and do fun work that fuels your lifestyle. Hi, I'm your host, Gayla Scrivener. Every week, you'll be introduced to amazing guests, useful resources, and inspirational stories. You'll discover opportunities and perspectives to shape your version of living full and working fun. Hi there, and welcome to the Live Full, Work Fun podcast. This season, we're exploring the theme, Don't Let the Start Stop You. It's a powerful reminder that while beginnings can be daunting, they're also the gateway to growth, success, and happiness. Throughout this season, we're discussing how to push through those initial difficulties to take that important first step towards your big goals, even when it feels overwhelming. I'm Gayla Scrivener, joined by my co-host, Fran Attilio. Hey there, Fran.
Hey, Gayla.
Today's discussion is, I've been doing a lot of thinking about this. We've both kind of gone through some things to have us pause and talk about being authentically ourselves.
It's such an important topic, and it might seem odd since we talk a lot about how to grow your small business or how to grow your business and be an entrepreneur. To me, the most important part, it ties to what I always say, it's all personal, right? If you're not connected to who you truly are, how can you be or grow something if you don't know what that is? Getting in touch with who your true authentic self is just becomes the gateway to everything else you do. And what's interesting is when you make that connection, it's like we say with everything else, it's work and practice to kind of keep going on that journey. But when you do, it's probably the biggest obstacle you realize that you are facing. You look back and you see things where you were trying to be like someone else or not honoring who you are authentically. So I love that we're talking about this today.
Let's dive right in. And what does it mean in your mind to be authentically you? And this may, for some folks, this episode may be a little frou-frou. I don't think so. I think we need to get in touch with ourselves to understand really what we want to do, how we want to live full and work in something that brings us joy.
The first thing that comes to mind for me, and I think there's many parts to this, but the first thing that comes to mind is to get in touch with your non-negotiables. Basically, they're your values or your principles, but you call it what you want. It's the things that if they happen, or if someone's asking you, or a situation is presented that goes against the grain of those non-negotiables, you know with every ounce of yourself, you're not going to do it. Or you're going to make a decision that's right and best for you based on the choices in front of you. For example, I value kindness. It's my number one. I have a top 5, but kindness is my number 1. For a good part of my life, Gayla, I have witnessed and tolerated unkindness in small ways, all the way through to extreme ways. And many times I did stand up to it or comment on it, but other times I held back because don't want to rock the boat, don't want to upset someone. I was a people pleaser for many years of my life. There is a way to stand up for that non-negotiable in a clear and kind way. I love the idea of boundary setting. That's one way to find your authentic self. Know when you know the non-negotiable. Okay, so, and sounds frou-frou right there to say kindness is my number 1 thing in a business owner, but that means I'm going to choose to work with and hire people who have the same value. That creates synergy. That creates more momentum. We're not butting heads because we're on the same page. That's also who I'm going to attract. Those are the people I'm going to work with. That's just one example of a component, finding your authentic self and how it connects to both your personal, and as I say it, I can feel freer because we were just talking offline how the journey we've both been on. And I really feel this is a big first step. Do you have a piece that connects for you to start that authentic journey?
I know that there have been times that I just really didn't know who I was. And there are periods of time that I felt lost. And it's like I'm trying to fill a role that other people wanted me to be in. I mean, even the simplest things of what do I like in music? What do I like in clothes? What do I like in just things? I'm supposed to fill this certain role. You may go to college because that's the what you need to do. Get a job because that's what you need to do. And yes, you need to explore and figure things out. Because I mean, I think part of the journey of finding yourself when you're lost is to explore and try different things. Way back when I had decided to leave the corporate world, leave the medical field, and try something else, I was lost. It's like I did not know how to grow a business. I didn't know what to do. I just knew that is there a way that we could not be bound by geography in working and we could work from anywhere? I didn't know what that looked like. We discovered a lifestyle called overlanding where people, vehicle based, they're not in big RVs, they're in four-wheel drive type of vehicles, and learning to explore the country and discovering how those folks earned a living, which was different. And I was fascinated. And that opened up my eyes. I don't like to wear a business suit or high heels or things like that. That doesn't seem like me. I don't like to wear a lot of makeup. I don't like to wear a lot of jewelry. Something happened to me years and years ago that going through a divorce, I knew that I wanted to hang with people that were more genuine, authentic, kind of the basically the same things. But there are folks that seem to be different in different pockets of people that they're with. And I didn't want to be that way. I wanted to absorb and be receptive on everybody's differences and hang out with folks that are genuine and are the same person regardless of where they're at. I have to say that when starting my business, I didn't feel really comfortable because I felt lost in, I mean, what does it mean to be genuinely me? Am I supposed to? And I'll tell you, Fran, for the longest time, I kept business and personal separate. When I networked, I was afraid to tell folks that, hey, I like to travel around in a vehicle and be in the back country and I can work from there, because I was afraid that they thought I would not do good service for them and I was afraid of what they would think of me doing that. So for the longest time, it's like I've got to continue to keep my personal likes and what I do for business separate. Over time, when I kind of let that go and was comfortable in my own skin, then the folks that really thought that that lifestyle was cool are my people. And I can still do what I do for my day job and serve them well.
I think you just touched on the most challenging and important point in navigating authenticity. I resonate so much with that feeling of when you ask yourself that question, who am I? And you feel lost because you battle these messages we've received over our lives of what we're supposed to look like in a corporate setting, what we're supposed to look like if we're a mom, what we're supposed to look like if we're out in public, what we're supposed to look like or sound like or be like. There's all these supposed to be's that we were taught. You start to hide parts of yourself. And they can be as simple as, I love Disney movies. Yep, I love cartoons. I watch them all the time. I think that cartoons are such a fun way to remember what we were like as children at a point when our hearts were still open. I just love cartoons. I used to be afraid to say that. There are a lot of parts of me. And I think that first step in authenticity is just sit down with a piece of paper. And this leads to the business side because it's similar exercise in your business. But for yourself, just sit down, write all the things that you really like. Write down you don't like to wear high heels. Write down, or for me, I'm 5'9" already, and I love to wear high heels. Or I like to wear black. You probably notice that with all the tops I have all the time. Write down all the things you like, all the things you love. They don't make you necessarily who you are as a human being, but they are parts of you, and embrace all of those. I am Reiki 2 attuned currently. It's a type of energy work. This has been something it's been hard for me to talk about because I think a lot of people, energy work is woo woo. To me, it's not. To me, it's one of the most powerful tools I have. And
So
I think,
we've held back on
yeah,
talking about woo woo stuff because of fear
yep.
of what other people might
Fear of
think.
acceptance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we hide a part of ourselves. Now, I think that there's things I choose to want to be private about. And being authentically ourselves, that does not mean that we need to share
No.
everything about us. I feel like I'm a private person for the most part and a reserved person, and that is okay.
Yeah. I think that's a very important statement, Gayla. Even if you aren't a private person and you like to share, beware of oversharing and undersharing. Don't be afraid to share. So, in the right audience and community, I'll talk about my energy work. So, what you can do with that is you know when and where, when you get really okay with who you are, whatever situation you're presented with, all of a sudden, all this worrying about which is supposed to be a need to be goes away. And you just think in this moment, okay, I'm sitting amongst people who don't really get energy work and they just made some nasty comments. So I'm just going to remove myself from the conversation. I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to say, hey, it was great to meet you all. I'm going to go and get myself a drink. Say I'm at a social event. You don't have to share. You just have to know when to stand in your authenticity. I'm not going to stay in a situation where they're saying things that are against how I feel or not in line with my authenticity just because I think I'm supposed to stay there. I'm not going to allow that negativity, that feeling that goes against what I feel. And that really does lead, again, all of knowing this, it then flows into your business.
You start to naturally, when you open up and being okay with yourself, you're going to attract other people that have similar beliefs and you're going to hang around them more. And then the natural course happens that the ones that make you retreat from your authentic self, you don't spend as much time with them. Now, sometimes we have family members who want to look out for us, right? They worry about us and maybe our life choices because we're trying to explore and take chances or do something or choose a path that it may not make sense to them. It's not, we're not fitting in this hole. We're that square peg going into this round hole. You know, what do we do with the folks that we can't naturally get away from?
That's that's where boundary setting and good communication comes in. Again, removing yourself from situations, being able to say, there's a woman she that's well known for boundary setting, and I cannot think of her name at the moment, but we'll add it to the notes. She has this great overall concept to setting boundaries, right? So the first time you say it, especially say it's a family member, it's clear and kind. They don't quite get it. It becomes clear, kind, and firm. They don't get it at all and they keep disrespecting your boundary, it's clear, kind, and walk away. And I really like that. I use that. It's kind of like green, yellow, red in a stoplight, because one time is just something happens, two times is brings your attention, and three times is a pattern. And that means no, they're not respecting what you're saying. And when you said before about the people that we attract, when you are not in touch with your authentic self, you tend to chase people. And I don't mean literally, like we're not stalking anyone, but you're constantly trying to prove your worth to someone. Maybe it's a boss, maybe it's a spouse, maybe it's a sister, but because you're not in tune with who you are authentically and totally loving every part of yourself, and I don't just mean physically, but really good with all the parts of yourself, you're going to chase somebody at some point because you feel like you have to prove your worth. When you know your worth, and we only have 100% of our energy, you're going to look for those people in the light. You're not going to be fumbling around in the darkness anymore. And you're going to attract people that are the right energy for you.
Okay, this I'm going to leap over into business building and marketing because you said something really important, I think, is that I know when I was first starting and it felt like I was chasing clients and it felt like messages were forced and until I knew my worth and was comfortable with the value that I could bring and help, the communication got easier. But also, I had mentors along the way that would draw out and see things that I didn't see within myself. Being authentic in your marketing, it's very intertwined. I mean,
It's exactly the same thing.
when we're
Yeah.
comfortable with knowing the value, the communication shouldn't be forced. It is helping people and attracting clients, customers, prospects to help them through their journey. And we have knowledge to get them from one point to another.
You know what this made me think of, Gayla? Something we were talking about a few weeks ago. When you know your worth, you also have no problem asking for what you're worth. When you know the value of your time and you're submitting a proposal, and this just happened to me over the weekend, there's no more doubt that the number I've put on there is the right and fair number. And you and I are very conscious of being fair. We don't look at what everybody else is doing. We look at, okay, what is right and fair for our time, our level of expertise, our this, our that. When you know without a doubt your worth and you write that proposal, it's a different feeling. And that's when you start to know things are clicking. When you sit down to write your marketing plan, write a social post, do the next authority piece, it's almost bursting out of you because you know who you are and you know who your business is and what you want to be. And you know, we're not trying to be, we've said this before, we've talked about stop trying to be everything to everybody, be everything to somebody, look for your somebodies. And that's what this is about. When you really connect with your authenticity, you will attract the right clients, not just be hunting for them.
And there's best practices in
Definitely.
business, there's best practices in marketing, there's best practices because of who we are. We put our own personality in those best practices. But it's the communication that brings out that authenticity. You know, being our authentic self is knowing our vibe.
Yep. Yep. Do you ever see those? So I have, some people have seen on some of the shots, I have tattoos and I have hidden them most of my life. I've had them for many years now. I'm not going to say the number. Recently started to expand my tattoos and I no longer hide them. I know my vibe. I'm good with my vibe. And you know what? I'm also good on the days my vibe is off. I'm starting to say it's okay. Whatever, wherever I'm at. And I'm surrounded by the right people, especially you, Miss Gayla, who last week I had a rough week physically. And like the timing of this recording in 2025, there was just a crazy lots of illness going around. And I reached out to you and I said, I knew that because I had the right people in my life, I could say to you, I'm not well. Can we reschedule these meetings? And that's all I needed to say. I didn't have to over explain. That was just a down point. And then my vibe was okay. My vibe was off last week. Now my vibe is back. That vibe shifts and changes, and I have different vibes, but be okay with whatever that is. Do you ever see those people who walk around and own, like they have really cool, flamboyant outfits on and like they just own it? That's what I picture my internal vibe to be like. I want it to be that. I want to own that walking down the street, like just being good with whatever I've got on and just owning that.
I love that because we need to just own who we are. But there are going to be times we transition in our life. So it is okay to feel lost sometimes and say, you know, this part of my life is kind of phasing out. What's next? And we can always have a what's next. What is it that we want to authentically, who is it that we want to authentically be in different seasons of our life?
That makes me think of nature, and we're all part of nature, right? People don't always realize this connection, but we always separate humans from, well, when we talk about nature. No, no, no. We're part of the hierarchy. We are part of it all. So I think about that evolution of ourselves as like new seeds or a new part shoots from a plant. And when something new is developing, and we're always growing and changing, just like a plant, just because our roots aren't literally in the ground doesn't mean we don't have any, but we're always growing and changing. And what I think about is when we hit this new part where we feel a shift happening, it's almost either the seed or like a new shoot about to come out. And it's like right before it bursts through, there's all this tension and, build up. And then all of a sudden it breaks through. And it's like this release. And you're like, oh, okay. This is the next step that I've changed into. This is okay, I don't see things like this anymore. Ooh, that part of me is changing.
You know, I've been in business, gosh, is it 13 years? I think. I've
Wow.
lost count, but I'm feeling this tension, if you will, of a little bit different shift, a change. Honestly, it's also kind of I don't know, relaxing. I have to tell you, last week in my work week, you know how they, when you go to different seminars or coached by a certain thing, you're supposed to get out a piece of paper and outline your perfect day or your perfect week and things like that. I realized like last week that was like a perfect week already. And I have those more and more. Not to say that there wasn't problems to be solved or, you know, issues to happen, but it was like the cadence of the week is like, man, I was productive. I had some interruptions, but I was able to handle them and I was in a good headspace and things happened. Now that doesn't always happen every week, every day or anything like that, but it seems like more and more it's like I have my systems in place. Things seemed easier, which was great. But I also it gave me the freedom to think what's next, what do I love, what brings me joy, and what can I do more of that.
You just described in a perfect example of what flow is all about. And in yoga, all yoga movements are called flow, but we should flow in life. There are good weeks, there are good days, there are not so good weeks, not so good days. And this flow, this grace to say, "Ooh, I had a good week," and reward and recognize that. "Ooh, I didn't have a great week." Recognize that it's all okay. And how do I not just focus on the work or one part of my life? Where is the joy? Bring the joy into your work every day. Bring the joy into your personal life. Flow is this. It's, I always, when I think of flow, I think of you ever go to like a beautiful river and nothing's rushing? You're not at the point of the rapids or anything like that. And just that beautiful sound of like flowing water. That's kind of what I want life to feel like, my life to feel like. And so if I start to feel the rapids, I go, what can I do to slow this down? In business, we do have to make sure we're balancing those days with some joy. I love that you keep saying joy today because it's something we have to remember to do. What's the point then if we don't find joy?
Maintaining authenticity. Can we do that when we delegate to others, or do we have to do everything?
No, oh gosh, no. I think that this is a fantastic question and comes at a great time for me because last week when I had my not so good week and I was down sick, I was forced, which I believe the universe delivered yet last week to me for a reason. I was forced to say to my team, who are three amazing women. I actually have four amazing women, but one's in school right now. And she'll come back to me in the summer. That I needed them to run their projects and their accounts. I just wasn't there. And they did a phenomenal job, knocked it out of the park, each one of them coming together also to help each other. I need to remember that delegating is a part of way of saying, I'm not supposed to handle it all. I'm not supposed to carry it all. Trust my tribe, trust the people around me. And delegating is a way to say, I've picked the right tribe. I have the right people around me. I did a good job. These are my people. And let's trust, let's flow, and let's work together. So I think it's an important part of authenticity to delegate.
And when we're marketing ourselves, if it's our business and stuff, I've had this problem, and some of my most of my clients have this problem. They don't like the feel of, "Hey, look at me, buy from me" type of vibe. The natural thing to do is that we do need to go in for the ask. There needs to be a call to action for folks to actually be called to action. So if you're not really into like copywriting, And understanding that, you may understand the steps, but having someone alongside of you help you be your own cheerleader, because somebody else can see what's within you that can help you draw out that authenticity.
I hear two things here. So it's on one side that fear or nervousness feeling you get to promote yourself, right? Think about it this way. You want to connect. Maybe call to action needs to change. Maybe it's a call to connect. And think about maybe the reason it makes you feel awkward is one, either you don't know how to copyright or you feel uncomfortable writing. You wouldn't walk in a room and just start saying, hey, look at me. There would be an approach, there would be a way to introduce yourself. And that's what all the information that leads to that call to action is. So if you have all that information, right, that leads them to, you know, your why, you've explained the problems you solve, this call to connect is now just the next step in the evolution of that relationship. It also ties in a little of quieting the part of you that might have been taught that we're not supposed to focus on ourselves. We're not supposed to put the spotlight. And I don't mean to, this is not meant in any way as a sexist statement, but women, we have been taught that. Be quiet, know your place, especially our generation and older, Gayla. We have a space, be quiet. In the corporate world, we used to wear jackets with shoulder pads so we looked like men, you know, so there could be a little bit of that in there. So knowing your authentic self, getting your whole message right to lead to that call to connect, and quieting the messages you may have been told is one part of it. And then I think that other part is asking for help, and on the alongside you or having somebody do it for you. Sometimes we're too close to it. You helped me come in contact with who 10 Touch was. We've had conversations for other clients, helping them figure out who they are. It's why I do the SPC program. The SPC program allows me to figure out the messaging of the client. So one, it's okay if you can't copyright. Ask for help. Two, sometimes the first draft, also stop putting pressure on yourself that the first draft is supposed to be perfect. Just jot it down. I speak and write without proper punctuation. So, and I'm okay with that.
There's so many tools, and the tools and the systems help us be more authentic. And there's best practices in businesses. There's different frameworks, but we can pull bits and pieces from those and pour ourselves into it and be able to, I'm going to say the word again, bring more joy into our life and work and earn a living that fulfills our life. It's not that life will always be joyful. It's how we react to what happens in this world. And we can react to the challenges in a good way, I think.
I agree with that, Gayla. And there's a lot of words out there that, depending on where you are at this moment in your life, you can find examples or explain or say why I don't feel joy right now. I don't feel happiness. I don't feel, some people don't like the word surrender or let go. If it doesn't resonate with you right now, that's okay. Just keep them on your radar. Know that they're out there ready for you when you move through whatever you're moving through right now. And not everything is applicable at every moment in every day of your life, but they're there and they're just waiting for you.
Yes. I love that, Fran. And I am so glad that you all were here listening today. And we hope that this conversation has inspired you to take some action. Are you in the midst of not knowing who you are? Where are you at in your journey? Any final words, Fran?
I'd love to share this passage it's a few sentences from the book, The Pivot Year by Brianna Weist. It's one of those books where every day you get a different small reading to reflect in your life, and it happens to do with authenticity. And she says, you become who you really are when you start choosing the things that you actually find meaningful and worthwhile. You become who you really are when even the most minor decisions throughout your day reflect your authenticity, when your instinct leads you before your mind interrupts. You become who you really are when you start allowing the brightest parts of you to shine without apology, when you begin to realize there is no substitute for your own love finally flowing through your own life. Just love that.
I do too. That's wonderful. Now remember, every successful journey begins with that first step. Don't let the start stop you from pursuing your dreams and creating the business and life you desire. Until next time, live full, work fun.